Hi everyone, it's Jay here and today I'm going to review the manga and manhwa I read in November. I finally completed the Dangerous Convenience Store series, I read the whole thing and I started a few new series as well. I read 13 volumes in total, so let's get started. I read Reincarnated in a Mafia Dating Sim, volumes 1 and 2. The premise of the story is that a granddaughter of a Yakuza boss is reincarnated into a mafia dating video game as Francesca Calvino. In the game, the crime bosses all serve the king, and in her real life she actually had a lonely life because no one would be friends with her. She was always surrounded by bodyguards. So she sees this as a second chance at life and wants to make friends at school. So she plans to navigate the game's main story and leave the world of organised crime behind her for good. And the first part of that is breaking off her engagement to Leonardo Aldini, the young head of the family and more importantly a major villain of the game. She's very sure of her plan and does her best to be kind to those around her, and is also very blunt to Leonardo, asking for the engagement to be broken off. I liked her character. She just takes everything in her stride, and unfortunately for her, this intrigues Leonardo, who also ends up attending the same Royal Academy as her. She has a childhood friend called Graziano, who I really like. We get his backstory in the first volume, and it's so sad. There are other elements she has to take into account as well, such as magic in this world, called skills that people have, and also take into account the other noble families and their children who are at the school she's at. I feel like I know where this is going, what the end game is, but I'm here for the ride because I'm enjoying it. Seeing Leonardo actually angry in volume 2 is good, because when he's around Francesca, it's sometimes easy to forget he's a villain. But then he interacts with everyone else and you remember, yep, there's the villain of the game. Each volume ended on a cliffhanger. The second one's cliffhanger was so good. I am desperate to get the third volume, which is out February 2026. This story isn't anything new, it's nothing groundbreaking, but that doesn't bother me. I'm enjoying the story and the art is good, so if that doesn't bother you either, I recommend this series. I read volume 5 of Hate Me But Let Me Stay. This is an Amigaverse series that follows Naoto and Hazuki as their family grows. In this one, they now have a second son called Aoi, which has not gone down well with Minato, their first son. He's jealous of Aoi and doesn't like having to share his parents' attention. Shizuku is the oldest and she is a saint, helping out as much as she can. There are two main stories in this volume: the sibling jealousy and issues at school in Shizuku's class. Her friend Daiki is an Amiga and he's being made fun of by some of his classmates. I really like this volume. It does a good job of showing how everyone is feeling throughout the bullying, including the boy who is doing the bullying. It was all handled really well. It didn't just villainise the bully, there were different things at play and it showed how situations like this could be resolved, fighting prejudice with empathy and thoughtful questioning. They're all so young, you can see how impressionable young kids are and how it affects their interactions with others. The comedy highlight of this volume for me is Hazuki. From being impressed Daiki stood up for his daughter to freaking out that his daughter is liked by a boy. It's so funny. The extra story at the end is hilarious. I'm going to be sad when this series ends. I love seeing this family grow and adapt together through new situations. I do always recommend reading the first 2 volumes before deciding whether to stick with this series or not. I bought the first 2 volumes and didn't particularly enjoy the first one, but the second one was great and I'm so glad I continued reading this series. Volume 6 is out February 2026. I read volumes 1 to 3 of I Was Reincarnated as the Villainess in an Otome Game, but the boys love me anyway. This is another reincarnation dating game story, where she's reincarnated as Mystia, a daughter of a noble family who is about to start high school, but she knows it's all going to go downhill because she's destined to become the rival of the game's heroine and eventually be sentenced to death. Her plan is to avoid the love interest, particularly her fiancé, and find someone else to marry instead, whilst trying to avoid all the main love interests and keep her head down away from any drama. The story starts a month before the heroine is introduced, but then goes back in time, so we get to see how Mystia's first meeting with her fiancé, Raid, actually goes. This happens when she's 10 years old. I like that despite her wish to keep her head down and break off her engagement with Raid, she still wants to do the right thing, and this ends up massively changing things, which makes the expected game story change. I won't say any more, but the change linked to Raid's family, I found it really interesting and I loved it, if I'm being honest. I like that this series gives us multiple points of view, not just Mystia's, because it gives us a much better understanding of how Mystia is seen by other people. Mystia's kindness also shows in the side characters she now has in the house, people she has helped in some way and who are extraordinarily grateful to her, almost possessive of her, which for some is a bit creepy. But overall the tone so far is that it leads to funny conversations between the servants of the house. Each of these guys on the front covers are a love interest. Raid, the fiancé, Eric, whose backstory is very good and you really feel for him, but clashes a lot with Raid. Then you have Jay, who I don't know what to say. He completely misunderstands how Mystia sees him. I would go so far as to say delusional. It's kind of sad and I feel sorry for him sometimes, but then I realise he could have just spoken to her or asked her even one question about it and it would have all been cleared up, so... It's interesting that upon initially meeting these three, they are all likeable, but as time goes on, you start to see the dangers lurking in some of their interactions with Mystia. I am definitely going to be continuing reading this series. The art is pretty, I'm enjoying the storyline so far, and it's quite amusing watching Mystia try and get Raid closer to the heroine, as it would be in the original game story, and her attempts just end in failure. I'm intrigued to see what happens moving forward because they're so far off what the game should be at this point that I don't know how reliable Mystia's game knowledge is now. There are 6 volumes out now, but I don't know if volume 6 is the final one or not. I do wish publishers would make it clear on either their website or on the volume itself if it's the last volume or not. Some do, some don't. I read all 6 volumes of The Dangerous Convenience Store, a BL manhwa about a guy called Yoojun who works in a convenience store to help pay his way through college and pay for his brother's medical bills, a brother who's in a coma. Whilst working the night shifts, he meets Gunwoo, a scary looking guy who seems to have a soft spot for Yoojun. I'd already read the first 3 volumes, and since it was only 6 volumes long, I decided to wait for all of them to be released and then just read them all in one go. So their relationship really just starts off as something physical, but Gunwoo struggles to get him out of his mind and eventually opens up about how he feels, leaving the ball in Yoojun's court, so to speak. So volume 4 onwards is where it all starts to go wrong. Things kick off in Gunwoo's gang or organisation. Lots of things happen in this volume, and it makes for a great read. Volume 5, as it says on the blurb, takes place 3 years after Yoojun last saw Gunwoo. You see how he's tried to move on, and my heart breaks for Yoojun. He just doesn't think he's good enough to be loved, which reflects in his dating choice. I won't ruin the ending and what goes on with everyone, but what I will say is this is a great series. It isn't dragged out, the pacing is good, and I like that you get both their points of view throughout the story. So you understand what they are both thinking and feeling, which is something I think is very important in stories like this. It would have been very easy for the whole story to be from Yoojun's point of view, but giving us Gunwoo's point of view really helps us as readers understand him and his actions. So if you love BL manhwa, love bad guys and love a mature rating, this series is for you. Last but certainly not least, I read Father, I Don't Want This Marriage Volume 5. Juvelian is a villainess whose life ends in tragedy, and so when a reborn Juvelian gets another chance, she works to change it all. Having had no love shown to her by those around her, real love is all she craves, and so she breaks off her engagement with Mikhail, who doesn't really like her anyway, and when her aloof father asks her who she wants to marry, she sets the bar so high, she reckons he'll never find anyone good enough. Because this is a reborn manhwa series, Juvelian's changed behaviour affects those around her, changing how they react. I personally love the story arc of Mikhail, who loses the plot over not being with Juvelian. He's unhinged, but I also like how the relationship between her and her father changes, as he's more open to showing her affection as the story progresses. At first, I found parts of the story unrealistic, like why is her dad suddenly willing to give her even the smallest amount of attention? But all I will say is everything starts making more sense the more you read. There's a lot going on that doesn't get fully revealed until later on, and we found out quite a lot in this volume. The misunderstandings between the characters is hilarious, as they stem from people completely misinterpreting what is being said and how others really feel. Juvelian's father is so funny in his protectiveness of his daughter. That scene where he gets on his horse to go avenge her, I just had to laugh. I full on cackled when Max greets her father like he was from the 1700s in Britain. There's a lot of serious stuff going on in this volume, and we find out how the Emperor has such a hold on Juvelian's father, but there's also romance and comedy to balance it out. I have to say I love this series. I wasn't sure about it in the first volume, with some of Juvelian's expressions looking a bit annoying, and the slightly unbelievable change in her father's reactions to her. But the more you read, the more you understand, and I think the art has improved massively since the first volume. I'm not saying it was bad to begin with, just that it has improved. The clothing, I have to mention the clothing, always gorgeously detailed. I love the designs. It's all just so pretty. Volume 6 is out in April 2026, which is too long to wait. I'm dying to know what's going to happen next. So those are the volumes I read in November 2025. I liked everything I read, and I think I need to buy more of this series before I forget what's happening. If you want to buy any of these, check out sci-fi.com, who always reduce the RRP on the manga and manhwa volumes, and if you use the code Jay'sManga, you'll get an extra 5% off. Please like, subscribe, and if you have any thoughts or recommendations for me, pop them in the comments below. Happy reading, everyone. Bye!